learning a beautiful maimer. It's a David called Das Bnei Yisrael Kedoshim Tihyu, chof aleph, which the Rebbe said on the day of the yard site of Rabbi Yisrael Aryeh Leib, approximately 8 years. It's eighth yard site, I would say. Transfer Tafshin Yud Gimel. So this is the eighth yard site. This was the eighth yard site. And then the Rebbe had it published, Tafshin on Aleph for Yud Gimel Iyah.
I'm a derech agav. It's not if it's not important. It's not important.
Right.
Aryeh had children.
A daughter, I think just one daughter.
One daughter.
Yeah.
But I heard from that daughter came other children.
It makes sense.
That's it.
They're still around, you're saying?
No, but I'm saying is because that would be progeny from Rabbi Yitzchak.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Mukadika Maimer. And
They never spoke about it.
About what?
The children of Aryeh.
Not that I know of, but his daughter came to visit the Rebbe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, she came from Eretz Yisrael. I think it was in the Mems. I can't remember.
It's Mems.
I think so.
Once the Rebbe showed up in Sunday with a sports car.
Yeah, she gave him a ride.
Okay, just before my time. That's probably the 60s.
Okay, let's get to the Maimer. So the Maimer quoted a pasuk from Shir Hashirim, where he says, "Mi yitancha ka'achli." That the Yidden asked the Eibishter that I'm asking that you should be to me like a brother. There's two pirushim, and what this means that the Eibishter is asking that you should be like a brother to me. That the Yidden are asking that the Eibishter should be like a brother to us.
That's interesting because the two Mishalim given in Tanya is father and son. That the brother one I never heard of.
It's different. Yeah, it's different in Yonim. One Indian is the Aveda of Tshuva, whatever. I'm saying that one Indian is Av. It's a different subject entirely. So he says like this: let's try that the Eibishter should be like a brother to us. So there's a Pirush of Rashi who says that the Eibishter should act with us the way Yosef acted with his brothers. Yosef's brothers sold him into slavery. Nevertheless, Yosef forgave them. Not only that, he gave them, he sustained them, he gave them food, etc. So asking the Eibishter that he should behave with us the way Yosef behaved with his brothers. Then there's the Pirush of the Medrash, that this pasuk Ka'ach, which brothers is this pasuk talking about? Like Yosef with Binyamin. Who Binyamin didn't sell Yosef. He wasn't there by the sale of Yosef. Neither was he there when Yosef was interrogating his brothers and causing them pain. The kavanah was that they should come to tshuva, but it was a union of pain. So we asked the Eibishter should behave with us like Yosef with Binyamin. Okay. So to explain these two things, the Rebbe goes into a long thing to describe what was the situation with Yosef and Binyamin. We're skipping a lot, but we're just going to focus on the previous us, which was Eis Vav. Eis Hey. We learned last week Eis Hey. So what does the Rebbe explain in Eis Hey? So he says like this. The story of Yosef and his brothers is the story of an Aveda and Tshuva. The Shvatim did an Aveda, and then they did Tshuva. And in the story of Yosef and the Shvatim, you see a unique thing, as follows. Usually, what's the story? What's Pshat in Aveda, and what's Pshat after the Aveda? In every Aveda, there's the Aveda itself, and there's what happens, what comes after the Aveda. The Aveda itself is a not good thing, and it's something, and a not good thing. The actual Aveda is a davar ra. It's a not good thing. And afterwards, what happens is that the Aveda brings the person to do tshuva, and that was the reason why he fell into the Aveda in the first place. So that later the person should do tshuva. So what do we have over here? First of all, we have that the Aveda itself is a not good thing. The act of the Aveda itself is a not good thing. The situation that the person is in because of the Aveda is also not good. The only good that comes afterwards is that later he's going to do tshuva, and that's going to bring him to a higher level. Okay? David says, however, in the story of Yosef, we see a different thing, because the Chitzenius, why did the Shvatim sell Yosef? They sold him. Me'emek Chevron says that in order that the idea, the thought that the Eibishter had, that he told Avram Avinu and Chevron that the Yidden should go to Golus, should be fulfilled. And in order to bring about the Yerida,
The bris ben Hapsara.
by the Bris ben Hapsara. And in order to bring about that the Yidden should go down to Mitzrayim, so therefore the Shvatim sold Yosef to Mitzrayim to bring this about. So what's the result of the sale of Yosef? Golus. The act of the Shvatim brought to a situation of Golus. But in the Pirush HaPnimi, why did the brothers sell Yosef to Mitzrayim? They sold Yosef to Mitzrayim in order that Yosef should be provided all the nitzitzis that he could do by himself. And like this, when the Yidden later come down to Mitzrayim, they won't have to be there for literally 400 years. They'll be able to be there for much less, for only 210 years for the do. And even in those years, the harsh time of the Gullus was only for 86 years. And this was all why? Because Yosef was there from before. Yosef gathered to within his possession all of the money that existed in Mitzrayim, and this represented, and this was bringing all of the nitzitzis that were captured in Golus Mitzrayim, bringing them back to Kedusha. And now there was much less work for the Yidden to do, and therefore the Golus was much less. So b'pnimiyas ha'inyanim, the Golus of the Yidden, the sale of Yosef to Mitzrayim, wasn't bringing about a Golus. It was actually bringing about a shortening of Golus, a lessening of Golus. And this is what Yosef told his brothers, he tells his brothers, don't be sad that you sold me here. So the Rebbe asks, well, what's the don't be sad? So the Rebbe explains that it's and what's the question? If we didn't know about this second option, that the sale of Yosef to Mitzrayim was actually a good thing, so then how would we understand the story? We would understand the model of a chet and of tshuva as first there's a bad situation, which is heipech ratzon ha'elyon, and then there's a good situation, which is the tshuva, and that's the ratzon ha'elyon. And if that's the case, then Yosef's words to his brothers shouldn't make them feel any better. It's true that good came out of it later, but what did they do? They did something bad. That's why when a person does an Aveda, even though an Aveda is according to Hashgacha Elyona, and there's a kavanah in it, that through the Aveda should come to tshuva, but a person is never allowed to be chas v'shalom happy about his Aveda. He has to feel sad about his Aveda. Because the Aveda itself, he did something that's heipech ratzon ha'elyon. Yosef, however, was able to tell his brothers that over here we had a different situation. What you did was not heipech ratzon ha'elyon. That you sold me to Mitzrayim was a good thing, and it's what the Eibster wanted. It was ratzon ha'elyon that it should be in Mitzrayim, in order to lessen the galus, in order to gather the nitzitzis. So if so, now Yosef can tell his brothers, don't be sad over what you did. You did ratzon ha'elyon. It's not like other Avedas. This is different. You don't accept it. Hold on.
No, I did not say I don't accept it.
What?
I just reminded me that every bad situation is something good that will come out, basically.
Yes. In every bad situation, there's something good that comes
That's
out.
why I did that.
But still,
Every uncomfortable situation, very, going through some kind of challenges, it washes you and cleans out the person, basically.
true, very true. But you still have to ask, but the situation itself, that situation itself, was it a good one or was it a bad one?
At the moment, yeah, it's both.
It was a bad one.
Yeah, but you said that it meant to be that.
So, but no, that we only that was only in the situation of Yosef and his brothers. In other words, if there's a person who realizes that for the past year he's possibly been going down a bad path, his behavior was let's use the muscle that Rebbe uses. Let's not talk about Avedas Mamish later in the Maimer. Rebbe doesn't talk about Avedas Mamish, but Rebbe talks about the fact that he wasn't working for the Eibishter at all. He didn't show up to work one day. Yeah, the Eibishter created us, and he employs us. He's our employer also. And we didn't show up to work. We didn't do any of the work that the Eibishter wanted us to do for a year. Okay? So the person does tshuva for that. Okay? But was the fact that he didn't show up to work for a year, that's not good. That was heipech hakavana. It's the kavanah only that he should show up for work. They were saying that in the story of Yosef and his brothers, that's a unique situation. That's a different situation, unlike the Avedas and the negative situations that we get into. By the Shvatim, it was a unique situation. That by them, even the not good part was actually a good thing, was the Ratzon ha'elyon. It was only not good because they didn't know. They didn't know that the Ratzon Elim is this. But the actual thing that they did was exactly what the Abster wanted should happen. Okay? And not only that, the Rebbe also adds that even the outcome for Yosef was a good one. What was the outcome for Yosef personally? He became the second to the king in Mitzrayim. He became the ruler of the entire Eretz Mitzrayim. Had he remained in Eretz Yisrael, he never would have reached such heights. Okay, you could ask, what is a Yid interested in Mitzrayim and in being a king over Mitzrayim, right? It's a separate discussion. But over here, the Rebbe takes it on the Tapshitis, that it was a good thing that Yosef became a ruler in Mitzrayim. In other words, the Rebbe is looking at it that being a ruler of Mitzrayim was a position that Yosef reached to a much higher position that was a good thing for him. Why exactly? That's a subject for a different time. But so even for Yosef, it was a good thing. And we'll get back to your comment in a moment. Just to finish.
If the Avera was resolved, if quote unquote the supposed Avera was resolved with the Mechir of Yosef going into Mitzrayim and elevating the Tzitzim and they're kind of shortening the golas and everything. So even the case where you want to consider it's not really an Avera, okay, fine. Why do we every Yom Kippur Asur Harubim? Why did they get punished? And these were horrible punishments. Why? Because of the Mechir of Yosef. What's going on here? You blind them, you burn them, you wrap them in the Sefer Torah.
But was that? I just out of curiosity. I'm not familiar with the subject, but just out of curiosity, that's what the Caesar said. But in Torah, is it accepted? No, I'm asking. In Torah, is it accepted that was taka kapara for the Mechir of Yosef? In other words, was the Chitzonius?
That's what's brought on in the Machzor. But they didn't know. They didn't have an answer for him. They're like, right. Oh, we're guilty. No, you're not guilty. Yeah.
The Pashtus, you're right, and I don't know, but I'm just wondering if you're actually right. In other words, intuitively, I agree with you that it was a kapara for the sale of Yosef, and I'm just wondering, is that taka what Torah says about it? In other words, it's true that the Caesar said it, and that's the way he set things up. But is that what was happening also between them? Is that the real reason?
They're all Tanoim, so they knew their stuff. That they answered the Caesar back says, listen, you got it wrong.
Yeah.
The reason why one of their time was X, Y, and Z.
So that I would have to think about. I don't have an answer. It's a good question. So, but let's just leave it to the side.
Yeah, for sure.
Saying we could always just answer the standard it's different days, right? But that's a little. Let's try. I'm saying let's try. It would be nice to first try to see if there's a good answer, but it's going to turn us away from the mimer for too long. Yeah. So let's just mention one more point. The Rebbe says, and this is, let's learn this inside the brackets. The end of Eis Hey, the very end of Eis Hey. The Rebbe says over here, such a word that's so important in our day-to-day life because we're in Golos and we have situations that we have to deal with. The Rebbe says such a chiddush over here, and it's like all of Rebbe's chidushim just hits you with so much force, like the truth of it. Like, of course, how didn't I think about it before? And it's the hira in it is unbelievable. So let's read the brackets. The Rebbe just finished saying in the Pnim that just like when Yosef was sold to Mitzrayim, so what his brothers did to him, which appeared to be not good, and they intended for it to be not good, actually was the biggest gift that he could have received because he became the ruler of the entire Mitzrayim. So the Rebbe says it's the same thing in all situations when somebody does something not good to you. The Rebbe first premises in on what it says in Tanya. Even when a person does something not good to his friend, right? So that's the first step. The Rebbe says in Tanya that you should not hold a grudge against somebody because the fact that he did something to you was not actually him. He has no power to do bad to you. And therefore, emotionally, when you're trying to process this thing that the guy just did to you, he acted like a Rosh Mirusha to you. Yeah, the person, he acted with an Achzaris and a Rishis to you, and he caused you damage, right? So the Alter Rebbe tells you, he quotes the Gemara. He quotes the Gemara. Nevertheless, what do we tell the person? How to process it correctly and to get over it and not be hold a grudge against the person, that realize that this person does not have the power to do anything to you. It's impossible for a person to decide what's going to happen to you. It's the Eibishter who decides. And the Eibishter wanted that this and this should happen to you, and it was a direct action, Kivyachol, from the Eibishter, this happening to you. And therefore, let yourself get over feelings of hatred and hurt that you have towards the person who truly wronged you, truly and completely. We're not talking about a case where you decided that he wronged you. He truly did. Tell you to get over it, right? So that's getting over it on one level. But listen now to where the Rebbe takes it to the next step and see if you could disagree with the Rebbe. The Rebbe says, if me'es Hashem ha'isazos, so now, if me'es Hashem ha'isazos, if this thing that the person did to you, the Alter Rebbe told us that it came from Hashem. No. Now, what do we know about everything that Hashem does? What that person did to you, he actually gave you something good.
Thank you.
You have to say thank you. Very good. If this is something that the Eibishter caused to happen, whatever the Eibishter does is for the good. So not only that you have to forgive him, you have to say thank you to him. Now, don't misunderstand this. That isn't saying that you have to say.
Go out and damage people.
No, and if somebody does something to you, then what the healthy
When you
thing
forgive
to
a
do
person,
is.
that's a thank you. I mean,
What?
saying thank you. What
The Rebbe
about
doesn't- the Rebbe
when
doesn't
is
say-
somebody stabs you.
This
but
is-
you
this-
say thank you.
the Rebbe-
No,
the
already,
Rebbe- the Rebbe-
forgive.
The Rebbe
It's a
doesn't
different
say the
story.
words. The Rebbe didn't
Defend
say.
yourself.
The Rebbe didn't say that you should say thank you to him. This is my
Also,
takeaway.
it's on the side.
So other that's my takeaway, and the Yankel's takeaway also was that really you should say thank you. The feeling inside you is thank you, because ain't not only ain't it's taiv. So you just did something good to me. So the feeling inside is not only that I got over it. How do I process it emotionally? How do I react to it in my avodah, my personal avodah? This has nothing to do with the other person. A person who behaves in certain ways, you have to. He needs to be treated in certain ways to protect yourself from further damage or to encourage him to not do damage. Now, of course, everybody says that that's why they react to what other people do in certain ways. Really, our own emotions are always tied up into it. Let's not get into it. But the point is, we're not advocating over here that you should say thank you to that person. You have to, have ways of avoiding such situations in the future. But the feeling inside, what do you feel inside, is really a feeling of thank you. It's a feeling of thank you. Because from this came good to me. You just did something good to me. If that person did it and it was his choice and it was his choice, what I mean to say is it was his doing, so then it's an abjectly bad thing. It's something that is absolutely bad, just bad. But if it's not his doing, it's the Eibishter's doing through him. So how am I supposed to deal with this situation that happened? I'm supposed to dwell on the fact. I'm supposed to meditate on the fact that everything the Eibishter does is good. And therefore, this thing that just happened to me this morning is actually a good thing for me. And just like Yosef became a ruler out of it, it was a good thing. So too something very good is coming to me because of what he did. And that's how I'm supposed to, that's my Aveda, that's how I'm supposed to get rid of the hatred and overcome it and serve the Eibishter properly without any hatred towards another Yid. The Rebbe adds, is a begili. Don't expect that you'll see begili, that what the person did. To use the extreme example that Rabbi Yankel brought, that Alter Rebbe quotes the Tanya, the Gemara, that's even if this is true, even if somebody cuts off somebody else's hand. So don't expect that you'll see the good that came out of it. By Yosef it was begili. By you should know for sure that it was good for you. It is something good. Not only that it wasn't him, it was the Eibishter, and therefore I won't hold it against him. But actually, the feeling should actually be that this is something good. But you won't necessarily see it begili. Okay, so that was just a summary, a very long summary of what we said before. Let's see, and we didn't start yet. Let's see now, but come on, it's such geschmack stuff. I mean, this is Fabrengen.
You have to learn each line separate shira.
You have to learn each line with Aveda, with your heart. Not this is not intellectual. Okay. So now we're going to Vav. But now we're going to Vav. Okay. According to what we know, that everything in Torah is absolutely exact. Yesh leimar Vav Zanei Samach Aleph. So everything in Torah is very exact, or is completely exact. It's included in this thing that we ask the Eibishter that he should treat us like Yosef treated his brothers, the Hagam Shas David Bilti Ratzim Komakim Gamalem Tevis Gedoles, which the basic understanding of that is that we're asking the Eibishter that Yosef did his brothers good, although they did him bad. So we're asking the Eibishter that he should do to us good, although we did Kivyachal bad to the Eibishter, we did things that the Eibishter doesn't want us to do. But the Rebbe says, "Who called David Bilti Ratzim Shadam Yosef, who dugmas in Shas Shvatim Yosef, Shemach Lo Yosef Mitzrayim." It's not only because we're asking that the Eibishter should treat us the same way, but actually everything that a person does that's not good is actually the same type of thing that happened between Yosef and his brothers. It's the same type of story. And he starts with, it's going to take him until the end of Zion, until the Ches basically, to bring it full circle. But let's just start first with the basics. And he says as follows. And the request from the Eibishter that he should treat us like a brother, like Yosef to his brothers, the Hagam shal even though through our actions are not good actions, we caused the Eibishter things which are similar to what the Shvatim caused to Yosef. Nevertheless, the Eibishter should return to us good things, just like Yosef did to his brothers. What does it mean that by us doing not good things, it's actually exact that we're behaving with Yosef like the brothers behaved with Yosef, right? Which, in other words, that the brothers sold Yosef into Mitzrayim, and David says everything is betachlis adiyuk. So what does it mean that when we do aves, it's like we're selling the Eibishter into Mitzrayim? What does this mean? David explains. The neshama coming down into this world and embodying itself in a body and into an nefesh, into an animalistic soul. So this is a literal galus. It is mamash a galus, not Tevis Mitzrayim Titania, but this is the definition of exile, of leaving the place where you're supposed to be and going to a far, far away and not good place. The Yesedem is then, furthermore, not only is it a galus, in other words, when a person is in galus, at least he can walk around, right? It's much more than that. The neshama is actually in captivity and imprisoned in the body and the nefesh habahamis. And this is what the Eibishter does. So why does he do it? What's the Eibishter's intention in doing this? Rabbi say 2.5 lines or 3 lines, and these 3 lines is worth it to drill into our heads. It's all over in Chassidus, but somehow it's hard for us to crystallize it. This is the point. Yeah? Why does the neshama come down to this world? So there's 2 separate reasons.
Makes sense.
It makes sense. But it's good to also have clarity in our head that at any given moment we have this framework available to us so that we can process things properly and know where we are and what the story is about. So look what the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says 2 nekudas. He says like this. He says the first kavanah, there's 2 separate kavanahs in the neshama coming down into the world. The first one is okay? And this, the Rebbe discusses this ba'arucha in Pada B'Shalim, that's in Melukat Beis. I can't remember the year that the Rebbe said it. But the Rebbe's longest Mugad Kamayim, it's like 28 days, and the Rebbe discusses these 3 points ba'arucha. But this is the first sugya. Yeah? Why did our neshama come down into this world? Because there's 3 things that we have to do. We have to refine our own body. Yeah, it should become refined. Second thing is there's the nefesh habahamis, there's the animalistic soul that has to be refined. And then each one of us has a part of this world that we have to refine and bring to the Eibishter. Okay? So the general aveda is birur v'zichuch, to refine the matter. And within that, there are 3 departments for which there are 3 particular types of avedas to do. There's our body, our animalistic soul, and our part of the world. And that's the first kavanah. Then there's a second kavanah. The second kavanah is that by the neshama coming down into this world, the neshama reaches higher than it was than before it came down to this world. So there's an aliyah for the neshama. And we learned a maimer about this, which Rebbe said about Abach Yavim Lahedis, was a built Mugadik maimer. But this is all over the place. But it's important if you just it's like a pasuk, it's like you have a short statement and it helps you organize your whole system of thinking. So It's very good to remember this. So, and Uli Yishlem, that it parallels with Alter Rebbe said in Tanya that there's two types of nachas ruach for the Eibishter. There's a type of nachas ruach for the Eibishter of Dira B'Tachtenim, which is parallels l'chura the zichoch of the guf, the nefesh ba'amis, and the chelke be'elam. And then the Alter Rebbe says there's also the nachas ruach l'mayla, that the yid leaves, goes out of the confinement of his body and his nefesh and his nefesh ba'amis. And this is an achsroch that the Eibishter has, as if his child came out of prison, that the king's child was in prison, and then he managed to get out of prison, and this brings great joy to the Eibishter. So, l'chura, that parallels the Ali of the Neshama. I don't know, but l'chura, it parallels that. But Alter Rebbe in Tanya, we just had it last week, I think. He says there's shnei mini nachasroch l'fon of Yisbarach. Shnei mini nachasroch. Yeah, l'chura. Yeah. So
we read it some
in Tanya last week. In Tanya.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the plan. That's the game plan. But what happens with Poyel? Yeah, the Eibishter has a beautiful plan. Let's take the person, the neshama, put it down into the filthiest place. Alter Rebbe just gave us a description of how lowly. Yeah. Menuvel ba'ashpa in a place dirty. Yeah. That's going to get to the shiva, but the chlovos in the Alter Rebbe describes it again from a few days ago in Tanya. It says shfal ha'anoshim adam. What does he say? I forgot. But a lowly person and mutal ba'ashpa, and then the king comes to him. That was the Eibishter's plan. Was let's take on a shama and bring it way down. To the ugliest place. And what's the point? That he should refine that place, and that he should also have Ali should go higher than the way he was before that. That's the plan. What happens? What happens before? The person comes down into this world, and there could be a situation where he's not doing his work. And then what happens? The pain and the torture that the neshama experiences from being in galus and from being imprisoned in the body and the nefesh ba'amis is for absolutely no reason. It's for nothing. In other words, when there's a reason for something, we're going to see in a moment, so then it strengthens the person. But it's for nothing.
If a person believes.
No. That's different type of Yisrael. He's not talking about those Yisrael. He's talking about the pain that the neshama experiences from the fact that the person is doing an aveda. We're not talking about Yisurim that the person experiences Islam from his own personal matters. We're talking over here about the pain that the neshama experiences because a person did an aveda. Or he doesn't even say that. He says just from the mere fact that it's in this world. That's very painful because in this world it's in prison. So that pain is for nothing. And the fact that it's for nothing is extremely painful for the neshama. If the person, and while the person is serving the Eibishter, then what's the experience of the neshama down here in this world? Now, since by him serving the Eibishter in this world, he fulfills the Eibishter's intention, the Eibishter's reason for putting him down here in this world, which he said, so in that case, they had time the pleasure that the neshama gets from the very fact that it's fulfilling the Eibishter's desire to refine the body and the nefesh ba'amis and the world, which by this the neshama gets to fulfill the Eibishter's kavanah of dira b'tachtein. And so too from the fact that he's bringing the Eibishter nachasra, or from the neshama's aliyah that it's going to have later, not from the Eibishter's nachasra, from the fact that the neshama is going to go up higher. So it's a tremendous pleasure for the neshama. For this, it's worth it for the neshama to experience all of the torture and pain of coming down into this world. That's when the person is serving the Eibishter. But what happens in the other times? Yeah, like I said, when the plan didn't work out. But what happens when the person isn't serving the Eibishter? We don't even have to mention if he's doing Avedas. Not only that he didn't show up to work, but he's also doing the opposite of the Eibishter wants. He's working against the family business. So Bahaguf nefesh ba'amis. The neshama is experiencing this galus, this exile, and this imprisonment, and the pain and the torture that it has from it, him leloi tachlis is for absolutely no reason. It's for nothing. There's nothing that's going to come out of it. Verstehst? That's the worst.
That's a time where a person doesn't think about tshuva.
He's still in the middle. He's still in the middle of the Avedis.
Right.
So he thinks his life is in vain.
The neshama feels. The neshama feels not that it's like it's in vain. It's being pained, and for no reason.
Only in vain.
In vain. It wasn't.
A lot of extreme and a lot of it feeling terrible. Yeah.
No, there's like this. When a person knows that something has to be done, and it's going to be painful, very painful, but there's a reason why it has to happen. So he could handle it. He could handle it. But when a person knows that it's going to lead to nothing, Menachem Begin, this is not the best example, but I read this. This is such a word.
He wasn't paid for the rest of his life.
I wasn't talking about that. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about much earlier in his life.
Situation could make a person go and do something better himself.
He explains. Listen to Menachem Begin's word before.
Depression behind,
Yeah. But that was a different story. This part is a different story. This part is
Emunah. We have Emunah, so it's extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Emunah, extremely helpful to get
But that's a gang. But that's a gang of tshuva. You're describing when the person is in the situation of tshuva.
Yeah.
But the Rebbe is talking about years before he's in the tshuva. Before he's in the tshuva. But what was the time about of Menachem Begin? It's just something that really explained something to me. It really gave me clarity. He said he was in jail. This is in the times of World War II, but he was in jail and he was imprisoned by the
British.
Not by the British. No. He was still in Poland, which was then ruled by the Russians. I think it was in Lithuania, but he was imprisoned by the Russians for his activism in a Zionist group, whichever one it was at the time. And he was thinking about his situation because he was a man of the spirit. He was an ideologue. Yeah, he wasn't. And here he is in prison, and he said that the experience of being in prison finally helped him understand why is it that when Stalin turned and his whole apparatus turned on all of the communist ideologues. Yeah, right. It started off with Lenin, the true believer. Let's not waste too much time on these matters over here. But it started off with the true believers, if Lenin ever was. But it started with the true believers. And when Lenin was experiencing was a gesis, when he was dying, he wrote that he's afraid that somebody who's a very good bureaucrat and knows how to really run the system, but is not ideologically pure, is going to take over the system, and he's going to be able to manipulate the whole situation, and then he's going to rule the whole place like a dictator, which was exactly what happened. Anyways, but in order to consolidate power, we don't realize this. We hear the story of Reb Leivik, right, where Reb Leivik turned to the president of the Soviet Union to help in the matter of kosher matzah, and it's like the strangest thing for us. Like, what did you ever hear of anybody having influence in Russia, other than Stalin? I'm saying, what was the story? Because we don't realize that early on there was a whole system of governance. It wasn't a dictatorship. There was a whole system of governance, and there were other centers of power. So for Stalin to take over complete control, which he didn't really do until the Great Terror in the 30s, that's when untold numbers of Chassidim were killed also in the 30s. Right, so
he killed more than Hitler.
Yeah. So to consolidate power, what did he do? He had to get rid of all centers of power. And true power is really ideological power. It's somebody who has the force of his ideas. And slowly over time, he imprisoned through his agents all of these ideologues, and they all confessed to rebel, to being a traitor and to betraying the ideas of the communist revolution. And these were the true believers. He went after the true believers. And they were the ones who articulated the idea of the communist revolution and were its biggest advocates and wrote about it and spread it. Yeah. And they all confessed completely falsely to doing something wrong.
The torture.
No. So he says like this. He says there were theories that were floated as to how this is possible. Yeah, because the average man in Russia knew that something is wrong over here. And what were the theories that they came up with? So one was under torture. Another one was under the influence of drugs. They must have drugged them with mind-altering drugs, not mind-altering what we call today, but other things. And Begin says he didn't accept that. He said, I don't know why. He was in the situation. He said, it doesn't add up. That's not what happened. And he says when he was in prison, he finally got a glimpse into the mechanism that's at play over here. What's the mechanism? He says that these ideologues, they're ready to go to death. The Lu'umas of Mesiras Nefesh, they're ready to die for their cause. But it's not a complete bittul. What they need one thing, that by their death, they're going to advance the cause that their whole life is dedicated to. And once the person realizes that nothing they do, even their death, is going to advance anything, is going to do anything they break. And he says what they did was very simple. They put them into a prison, locked them up in a cell where they said, nobody is going to ever hear a thing that you did, that you stood proud, that you defended the cause, that you gave a speech. Nobody cares. It's going to affect nothing. It's going to bring to nothing. And Begin said that he understood that that's what broke them. And when that happened, they lost their spirit and they signed whatever they wanted for whatever promise of lightening, their imprisonment or whatever it is. They lost everything. Why? Because when somebody understands that his pain and his suffering is for something, so the cause gives him strength and gives him enjoyment that can help him withstand it. The worst thing is when something is for nothing. And when that happens, the person falls apart entirely. That was Menachem Begin's word. It's a good word, Levi. No, don't you see his it's something beautiful. I mean, beautiful. It's a terrible situation, but it's a very deep insight.
We say in the field that pain minus meaning equals suffering.
And you're defining pain as something that a person can deal with because he understands it's for something. But suffering is the definition is pain that's meaningless, or suffering is
the pain
right.
minus meaningfulness in it.
Right.
That's called suffering.
That's called suffering.
But pain has a meaning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I understood. But Stam, once we brought the whole story of Menachem Begin, this is also a beautiful word that explains to us why the Rebbe demands from us such bittul. If you learn the Rebbe's Mamorim, the Rebbe says you could be a Baal Mesiras Nefesh. We learned this in Lyceum Shakela, amongst other places, that you could be the biggest Baal Mesiras Nefesh, the biggest tzaddik, but if the bittul is not absolute, it's teikt nicht. Now, here we have a very real, tangible illustration of why absolute bittul is needed. What was the problem with all of those ideologues? They're ready to come to this nefesh. That's the word of bittul. But it was for something. There was a yeshus in it. It's the cause that they lived for. And therefore, even if they were at the level in the Lu'umazeh, Lahavdil, of Mesiras Nefesh, but they broke. They dropped the ball. They left the cause when they realized that's for nothing. If a person has absolute bittul, then even if it's for nothing, he doesn't drop the ball. Because it was never about him. What does the fact that I'll have no effect have to do with what the Eibishter wants? If I'm completely bottled and it's only and absolutely and completely about the Eibishter, then this cheshbon of that it's for nothing is a different wavelength. It doesn't affect me whatsoever. What does it have to do with me? I'm bottled to the Eibishter. I'm doing what the Eibishter wants. But even if there's an iota of I'm doing it for the Eibishter, but because I love to do what the Eibishter wants, or because I want to have a serious nefesh for the Eibishter, that because I want to is going to lead in the end of the day to falling apart. And we see this. That even these people were ready to give their life, but they fell apart at a certain level. With absolute bittul, you never do. Okay, anyways, so this vart of Menachem Begin helps us understand what the Rebbe is saying over here. That when something is for no reason, it is the greatest level of suffering, like Levi defined it. And it's so hard for the neshama and the nefesh elikis. And now the Rebbe adds one more thing. Now this neshama is a part of the Eibishter Mamash. In other words, wherever the neshama is, there's a piece of Hashem there. The golus and the pain of the neshama is also a golus and a pain of the Eibishter himself. I mean, you could stop and think about that for a little bit, but let's not. And this is what we mean to say, that when a person's behavior is not appropriate, including merely that he's not fulfilling his job that the Eibishter gave him, because like we just explained, that's not a merely. Now it's pain without any reason, without any benefit. So So he's doing to the Eibush there the same thing that the Shvatim did to Yosef, that they put him into a golus, into a prison. First, they put him into a golus by turning him into a slave, and then and then that led, the way things go, that he ended up even in prison.
Which page you are on?
Reish Samach Beis, and we're holding by Va'id, by the second paragraph that starts Va'id. Va'id in Bezeh.
Reish Samach Beis.
Right before Zion.
Yeah.
Right before Zion.
Maybe the number of pages, maybe
Right
the pages.
before Zion.
Okay.
I got it.
Va'id in Bezeh. Now, the emes, these next 5 lines are extremely painful for me, but if anybody experienced it, they'll know exactly what it's saying. If they didn't, we'll try to envision it. The Eidin in Bezeh, Shebenegeya Maisa Shvatim liYosef, Benegeya to what the Shvatim did to Yosef. Ne'emar, it says in the pasuk, the Shvatim said to each other, Ashemim anachnu, we are guilty here, and they say something very strange. V'ischanenu eleinu v'lo shamanu, when our brother pleaded with us to have mercy on him, and we didn't listen to him. And that's a very strange statement. And the Ramban speaks about it. What was worse? That they didn't have mercy on him, or that they put him into Mitzrayim, that they sold him as a slave? What should they feel guilty about? Right? You would think. So you think about it for a little bit and you realize, no, the problem is this meanness, this heartlessness.
They yid.
And they yid this to their brother, this viciousness. Mele, we got angry at him and we felt that we should sell him to Mitzrayim. Whatever, we could come to terms with that. But the Ashemim Anachnu, what could we never come to terms with? What's still bothering us and we feel guilty about this? Shvatim are telling each other, guilty. Well, we have a guilty conscience. This is Aval Ashemim Anachnu. This is the original guilty conscience. What do we have a guilty conscience about? About this viciousness.
That could be the answer.
The viciousness, the achzorius.
That could be the answer to that.
Let's stick with the Rebbe's way of thinking. Let's stick with the Rebbe's way of thinking. This that they didn't have Rachmanus on Yosef when he pleaded with them. It's even worse than the actual sale, and never been done from the Ramban. And so too it is in the Nimshal. In other words, sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where we need to do something. And it turns out later we realize what we did was wrong. But we can get over the fact that we did something wrong because there was something there that made us think that this is what we should do now. But when there's a component in it that the person is pleading with you and you shut your ears to it, that's nuclear. That's a nuclear bomb. And what does he say over here? He says that the Rebbe said everything is meduik. What we do to the Eibush is like what the brothers did to Yosef. The neshama and the shchina itself are pleading with the person. Please take me out of the golus, take me out of the imprisonment. When the person doesn't hear this nebach plea for mercy, in a way, it's worse than the actual Aveda that he did itself. And in all of these ways, the Rebbe says a person can find himself that in his connection to the Eibishter, he's like the brothers to Yosef. He's treating the Eibishter like the brothers treated Yosef. Not a great note to end the shir.
And this is the tides me eating leave.
Oh, so let's remember, that's the opening of the next one. Misayim B'Tov. The Rebbe is going to show us how we could come to something good. By the end of Zion, we'll see that we could come to something good. Okay, Misayim B'Tov. All right.
It's a very beautiful answer.
Hang on, we're still live. Just so you know, what's the answer? I don't see the end button here. Oh, yeah.
But this over here with the